Hi, Dr. Stoll, and welcome to the Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Chef AJ. As always, it is so great to join you, and especially for such an important topic as this. And I just want to applaud you for, just all of your years of work and coming alongside people and helping them with not only truth and information, but with the practical aspects of making a lifestyle change. You do an amazing job at that. And, I just want to tell you how much my wife and I also enjoy your cookbook and all those amazing recipes that we appreciate. You sent that to us as it was just coming out, and your latest book as well with all those great recipes in the back, and it has been amazing. We've enjoyed many, many recipes, so thank you so much.
Well, you are so welcome, Dr. Stoll, and thank you so much for saying that. And I so appreciate your work, the Plantrition Conference, because that is where I learned something that I really want to ask you about, which is the social network effect. It was at your Plantrition Conference that Dr. Dean Ornish spoke, and he said something that just blew me away. He said something to the effect of that if you have a friend that's overweight or obese, or even a friend's friend that's overweight or obese, that you are more likely yourself to be overweight or obese, even if you have a genetic family member. How is that possible?
Yeah, this is a very interesting area of research that's just evolving, and I don't think we fully understand all of the implications nor the connections that relate to this kind of idea of social contagiousness of both good and negative habits. And there was a study published in 2007 in the New England Journal of Medicine that looked at this idea of the relatedness of our friends to our own weight. And they found that if you have friends, in a group of friends that are overweight or obese, you are 57% more likely to be overweight or obese. If you have a family member or a spouse, it's between 37 and 47% more likely that you too will be obese or overweight. So that's independent of all of the epigenetics, independent of even, our heritage growing up, all the habits that we have. But somehow there's this environmental influence, both, I think it's groupthink in the way that we begin to understand and think about food and conceptualize food. There's also an element, and I'd like to dive in a little bit more on this with you, is this idea of, of acceptance. That because we come into these groups and there's this underlying desire for us to be accepted in the group, that we will sometimes change what we think, believe, or do to find acceptance, even to the point of doing things that we thought we would not do, because acceptance is so powerful.
That's incredible. So what's the answer? To just hang out within people? Well,
it's really interesting. And, on top of this, and I think this kind of gives a little bit of clarity to your question. There was a new study just out in 2018, and they looked at a social network of runners around the world. 1.1 million ran almost 350 million kilometers in 1 year. And they really tracked these people and found that one of the strongest influences for the distances these people ran, and sometimes going the extra mile, was the influence of the social network, more than almost any other factor. And their conclusion in this study was that running is socially contagious, and that when people in a social network come together, there's an influence of what others are doing that influences our own behavior beyond even our conscious understanding. And so I think that what we can see from that study and applying it maybe to the weight loss is that when we come into different groups and we find our place of acceptance, perhaps, because we are a little overweight to begin with, we find acceptance in another group of people that are overweight. And then we begin to think like them, and we begin to not want to cause anybody to not feel accepted. And so it contributes to this supportive network of habits that are not healthy or supporting of good health. And in order to break out of that, just like the runners, they would have to stop doing something that was socially acceptable and socially supported. And sometimes in a group of friends, when we come together and we're finding acceptance in our network, for us to change our habits, begin losing weight, creates friction, and it may create a lack of acceptance within that group. And that resistance that we can begin to feel is very uncomfortable. And if people don't have a strong network outside of that group of friends, sometimes even knowing that they should make a change, knowing that being overweight is unhealthy, knowing the foods they're eating are unhealthy, is not as powerful as that power to be accepted into that group. And so, one of the things that I think is really important in answering your question is that as we're working with people and we're giving them scientific information and we lay things out, and this evening we'll talk about microbiome and exercise activity. We'll talk about some of the habits and issues around weight loss and emotional eating. But really, one of the most important aspects of this is a socially accepting and supportive community. And so if we're not providing that, I believe, as providers and people that are working with people and even friends and family members, it makes it very difficult for someone to make a change because they may feel like they're losing something very valuable, which are those supportive relationships.
That's amazing. Many of the experts on the summit talked about the importance of the environment in terms of having the proper food in the environment, not having junk food, but no one ever really talked about the influence of the social environment. And I know a lot of the women I've worked with, once they've lost weight, they were kind of dissed by their friends and sometimes even coworkers and families, almost like they didn't want to see them be successful if they were not yet successful themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And it's easy sometimes for us on this side, especially as a practitioner, to say to people, well, you can always find new friends. You need to get healthy, you need to overcome your heart disease, you need to reverse your diabetes, you can find new friends. But for somebody that's actually in that situation and they don't have new friends, they don't have a supportive community, and we're asking them to do something which, at the very heart, changing your food is really a core level life decision that challenges so many of our paradigms and our habits in life. But then on top of that, to ask them to give up their socially supportive network of friends to do something and to go out on their own and to do this alone, I think sometimes we grossly underestimate, what we're really asking of people. And, in the last year or two, I've really become aware of the power of a supportive community and the importance of acceptance and helping people to move through a lifestyle change by providing that acceptance and accepting community. And I think it's just something that's not taught, it's not provided, and it's often undervalued in our assistance of people trying to make a change in their life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think community is huge. In terms of like alcohol or drug addiction, I think people understand that once they get out of rehab for drugs or alcohol, they can't hang out with the same friends that they used to drink and do drugs with. But with food, people don't see it the same way, that they can't keep going out to the same kind of restaurants and eating events that they were, if they want to maintain their healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think it kind of goes back to one of those ideas that we often minimize the power of food in every aspect of our life. We minimize its influence over us and our health and our relationships and our future. And in this case, we minimize the influence that the food has in providing that social connectivity. And understanding how important that is. We look throughout all of human history, and one of the centerpieces of celebrations and the centerpiece of people coming together and annual events is food. And it was all special food. And so I really believe that food is so powerful, and part of that power is in bringing people together. And it's really been disrupted in our culture in the last 150 years. And so now we eat alone, we eat in isolation, we often eat for self-fulfillment or self-satiation of pain, but we've really lost the sense of coming together over delicious, healthy food in community that supports every aspect of our life and builds health from the table out.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about the pain and emotional eating.
Yeah, yes, and that's as you and I both know, and you spend lots of time speaking about this, both from the research side, and your transparency in your own life story is so powerful because it weaves together and helps people to see the reality of emotional eating and food addiction. And one of the things that I learned as a practitioner early on is that the science doesn't always bring transformation. And I was one day in practice, and I'd been working with a woman, I'll just call her Mary, and she was overweight, had been fighting breast cancer, had been to an immersion. I'd worked with her individually for a year in my practice, give the information. She would start and then seem to sabotage and not be able to maintain the life change, and then start all over again with new inspiration. And we developed a close relationship. And so one day she was sitting on my exam table, and I just said to her, I said, Mary, I said, I just have to ask you a question. You know, why is there so much struggle in making this lifestyle change? I said, you could probably teach me all the information I've taught you in the last year. You know, you understand how to change your kitchen and practical aspects. You know how to change your environment to create a supportive environment at home. But what is the core issue that's really sabotaging your success? And she paused for a long time, and then she started to cry. And she said to me, you know, many years ago, my first husband was physically abusive, verbally abusive, and emotionally abusive. And she said, I barely escaped with my life. And I swore that day that I would never let a man do that to me again. And she said that my fat is my protection. And every time I start to lose weight and I start to look in the mirror and believe that I'm actually becoming attractive again, she said, I eat because I'm fearful that somebody will see that I'm attractive and hurt me again. Well, that was a huge wake-up call for me in my practice, that this was far more than I expected. It was not just about changing your food, reducing your lab work, and reducing your weight and overcoming disease. I really saw that food was so powerful in many different ways in each person's life, and it was really an individual story. And it really helped me to begin understanding this idea of emotional eating, and that lots of people eat to cover up pain and protect themselves. A lot of people eat food to treat pain. And in fact, as you know, Chef AJ, that the sugar, fat, and salt work on the same receptors in the brain where opioids work, pain medications like Percocet and Vicodin and morphine. They work on the same receptors in the brain where benzodiazepines like Valium for anxiety and Xanax may also work. And they work in these same regions of the brain where we have our reward center, the dopamine reward center, to try and give a little bit of a boost of a hit when we're feeling depressed. The same places where sugar and alcohol and cocaine and methamphetamine and the drugs would work. And so what people end up doing is they have pain, unresolved pain inside of their lives, emotional pain that is not uncommon in our existence as humans. And they've never had an opportunity to deal with that pain or have that pain healed or resolved. They don't have socially supportive networks of people where they can have the assistance of overcoming that pain. And so food has become their go-to counselor or their method of treating pain over time. And so, you know, they eat food to feel better, but unfortunately, as you and I know, that food makes them feel worse over time, and it actually depletes those same hormones that are trying to increase: the serotonin, which is the happy hormone, the melatonin, which helps with sleep, the GABA, which stabilizes brain activity. It actually suppresses the release of dopamine over time so that you eat the same food and you don't get the same emotional hit, leaving you feeling more unhealthy. And then on the backside is that dark dagger of guilt and shame that come from eating those foods to try and feel better. And it just leaves people caught in this tangled, sticky web of emotional eating and foods that are actually causing them to feel worse over time. And one of the great detriments, I think, in our culture today is this idea that food is just calories. We just tell people to eat better and they can lose weight and keep it off for a lifetime. And it's just a scientific equation. But we never come alongside people and help them to walk out of these tangled situations. And there is a way of escape, and you're a living, amazing, breathing example of that. And you know, your life is a testimony to that. It gives so many people hope that you can walk out of that with support, with encouragement, with a supportive network of people around you, and the right steps that can help lead people to a place of both inner healing and outer healing. And that's the wholeness of a whole food plant-based diet.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Stoll. I'm sure there's many people like Mary watching. What is the first step? How do we help these people that are caught in this cycle?
Yes, and I think that one of the first steps that I've learned is to find somebody that loves you. That's probably the most important thing. And if you don't have a person that loves you in your life, then there are places that you can find people that love you. There are wonderful support networks like the one that you've created, Chef AJ. There are some amazing plant-based support networks on the internet, like Forks Over Knives. There are also places you can go, like, you can go to churches. You can go to support groups. There are lots of places where you can go and find somebody for you. And that is probably the single most important step. Once you have love coming into your life and you have support networks, then we can start to lay out those steps that we know that work in overcoming some of those challenges around food. But it really hinges on that first step of love and being able to receive love and have a loving support system. And I know that doesn't sound very scientific, and sometimes, I think, especially coming out of like the Plantrition Project and International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention, and looking for scientific solutions and algorithms and steps, we would like to maybe give more scientific recommendation for a first step. But after 15 years of working with people and doing immersions and knowing the science, I've really come to believe that it is that intangible aspect of love that really brings about transformation and allows it to be something that is substantial and long-lasting, and is not eroded by time or emotions that may come up.
Right. I always sign my emails love and kale. So kale's important, but you notice that the love came first.
That's right.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've often heard it said that the opposite of addiction actually is connection. And for so many of these people that are emotionally eating, or maybe just not emotionally eating, but eating the wrong food, the foods that people are using to medicate, they're so addictive. Right?
They really are so addictive. That's exactly right. And the love and connection, it came out of some interesting studies. You probably know about these in the 70s by a gentleman, I believe his name was Bruce Alexander. It was the rat park. Have you heard about these studies?
I think so, but go ahead, share with everyone.
Yeah, so they understood that, rats had this propensity for stimulating the reward system, much like humans do by, consuming sugar, fat, and salt. In these cases, they were using cocaine. And they found that if they isolated a rat in a cage with cocaine and water, or water and food, the rat would have a propensity to continue feasting on the cocaine until it died. So they constructed an experiment where they created a rat heaven. They created a perfect environment for rats with lots of things to play on and, lots of other friendly rats to play with. And then they gave the rats the option of continuing the cocaine or living in this rat heaven with connection. And they found that the rats would discontinue the cocaine for the experience of living with connection in other rats. And, through the years, there's been some controversy around those studies because, people will extrapolate to humans and say, well, we can't develop a human utopia like a rat heaven. And we all live in places where there's, conflict and interpersonal relationship issues in a world that's challenging, and we have work stress. But I think the essential part of that is that, and you and I know, working with people for so many years, that if we do create an environment where people find support, they find joy, they find encouragement, they find hope, they find some inspiration, where, they find an ability to begin to see beyond the years and see that there is an amazing experience for them in life and a way for them to share their gift and contribute to others. That kind of an environment really does assist people in overcoming food addictions. And, while we can't extrapolate the rat heaven to a human heaven here on earth, we certainly can extrapolate some of those lessons, and we can know that, looking even at the blue zones and the power of community in those blue zones, when people live in an active community where there is support and love, the whole group is healthy as well as the individuals. And so I think that is what's so important in this journey to get healthier, and this journey to lose weight, is to create those really powerful social networks where connection overpowers addiction.
I love it. Connection overpowers addiction. That's fantastic. So I know that you're an elite athlete, you're an Olympian, and where does exercise fit in this equation?
Yeah, that's a great question because the fitness industry has really told us we need to burn off those calories, and that's and it's really an uncomfortable thing for somebody that's trying to lose weight or somebody that's been overweight for their entire life to go out and exercise enough to burn off enough calories to see weight loss. It can be very uncomfortable. It can actually lead to injuries. It leads to a lot of discomfort physically. And we all know that it's difficult to maintain those levels of activity to burn off enough calories on a daily basis to see weight loss. The research has also shown that people grossly overestimate the number of calories they burn and underestimate the number of calories they eat. So playing the calorie balance game is a losing battle. In fact, on average, the average person in their lifetime eats about 58 million calories. And so if we believe that we can somehow balance out 58 million calories in our lifetime between activity and consumption, somebody's a better mathematician than I am. And also, as we all know, that if we're trying to play this calorie game of burning calories to lose weight, it's not sustainable because none of us like to live in that place where we're actively keeping track of the number of calories we're consuming and the calories that we're actually burning off. It becomes a constrictive aspect of life that hinders us from living out with joy. And so, I always recommend to people that when you're going to start making a lifestyle change, just start with something, one element of your lifestyle, and work from that place out. If we try to add, a lifestyle change where we're changing our diet, we're adding in exercise, and we're, modifying other parts of our life at the same time, your body can't and your mind can't handle that much change at one time. It becomes really difficult and unsustainable. And then the research has actually shown that it's much easier to make small graduated changes over time toward a bigger goal and adding in more change as you gain momentum rather than trying to change an entire lifestyle. Now, there are instances where people need to do that. If somebody has severe heart disease, they're fighting cancer, they have severe autoimmune disease, you really do need to make a substantial lifestyle change in order to overcome your disease. If you're simply trying to transform your life, it's better to start with the most important piece first, which is food. And after the food piece has become more normalized and a part of a normal lifestyle, then you can add in the exercise. And I really see exercise fitting in as an addition to first the foundation of food. Exercise has lots of benefits, but it does not have the potential to reverse disease, to lose weight, to enhance your health, as does food. Food is the cornerstone of health. And if you don't have the food piece right, you'll really not get the exercise piece right. We also know that there are people who exercise a lot and still have disease. They can be thin and unhealthy. Frank Shorter was a prime example. One of the great marathoners and distance runners died of a heart attack. And so, we can still have a thin body and be unhealthy and have disease. And so the real goal is not just to be thin, the real goal is to be healthy. And the pursuit of that is by changing diet first. As an example, in my practice, one time I had a woman that came to see me, and she was about 350 to 400 pounds overweight. She had degenerative knees and back issue, could not exercise because of the severe pain, couldn't weight bear on her knees because of the severe pain. And so she was unable to do any additional physical activity. And we started only with her diet, modified her diet, put her on a really good, healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, focusing on lots of greens and berries and whole grains and beans. And she transformed her diet and ended up losing 350 pounds only on food with no additional activity. Once she got thin, she actually started to feel good, and she initiated exercise on her own without even my encouragement to do so. She got a few weights. She started lifting weights in her chair. She started to feel better. Her knees didn't hurt as much. She was able to start doing some walking. She joined a gym. And so it was a natural progression into exercise. And that exercise really helped even her back and her knee pain. She was able to strengthen her quadriceps around her knees, which off-weighted her degenerative knee disease. She was able to strengthen her core, and her back pain almost nearly resolved. Her posture improved, so the pain in the middle of her back also went away. Her bone density improved, her sleep improved as she improved her exercise. And then with the noradrenaline from exercise, her mood improved. So the exercise was an important component in that complete transformation, but it was that additional component that came out of a dietary transformation.
Right. So get the food right first. That's where all the Hippocratic Oath says, let food be thy medicine. It doesn't say let exercise be thy medicine.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
Oh, that's terrific. You run these fantastic immersion programs. Can you tell us about one of the most inspiring transformations you've seen in these immersion programs that you run?
Yes, we've had so many immersion programs. Yeah, a number of years ago, as I was serving on the Scientific Medical Advisory Board at Whole Foods Market, I was asked to take on one of these week-long health immersions for about 100 of the most unhealthy team members at Whole Foods every year. And so this was a part of a larger program that was instituted at Whole Foods to help their employees improve their health and regain health and overcome some of the diseases that they were challenged with. And so Whole Foods, to their amazing credit, has created 4 of these immersion programs. It's myself, Dr. Joel Furman, John McDougall, and Rip Esselstyn. And they pay for one of their team members and half of a spouse or significant other to attend a week-long intensive total health immersion, where we feed them a 100% whole food plant-based diet. We teach them about their bodies through lectures during the course of the day. We have a lot of fun in between. We do beach party, we do a dinner cruise, we have wonderful evening activities. And then we also have light exercise, just teaching them how to move their bodies, because many of these people have not done any exercise in a decade. And so we're just teaching them how to take care of themselves and how to begin stretching and walking and moving their body. And so, during the course of the week, almost every year, it re-inspires me to the power of food and how much can happen in 1 week with a good diet. We see people come in all kinds of conditions. We see people with active rheumatoid arthritis where their joints are saying they can hardly bend their fingers at the beginning of the week. By the end of the week, the swelling and redness is gone. They have full range of motion without pain in their fingers. We have people with fibromyalgia. Their pain is resolved by the end of the week. We've had a number of people with severe hypertension who are reduced or discontinued their medications in simply 1 week. People with type 1 diabetes able to reduce their insulin by 75% in the course of a week. People with severe diabetes in 6 months off nearly all of their medications. We've had lots of people lose more than 100 pounds. And we've had so many amazing physical transformations. One that just comes to my mind, and I think it's a great story to tell because it's a family that was transformed. We had one team member that came, and before she came to the immersion, she had written and said that she was feeling depressed as a mother of 2 children, was also depressed because she and her husband were not able to get pregnant. They wanted to have another child. Her husband was facing surgery for severe ulcerative colitis, inflammation of his bowel. She had thyroid disease, hypertension, was early pre-diabetic with insulin resistance, and said that she didn't have enough energy and didn't know how she was going to get out of bed every day, just get through her day. She was overweight, was struggling with weight loss. So she came to the immersion, experienced a good transformation in the first week, lost about 5 pounds, saw improvements, but she went home and she continued to do it and taught her family, changed her environment, and over the course of the next year saw an incredible transformation. All of her disease symptoms resolved, including her hypothyroidism, which is unusual, but it fully resolved with blood work. All of her high blood pressure, her insulin resistance fully resolved. She got down to a wonderful, healthy weight. She started running. Her depression resolved. She had so much energy that she took on extra activities with her children. Her husband's ulcerative colitis fully resolved, and he canceled his surgery and still to this day is doing well without any symptoms. And they were able to have a third son. And so, it's an incredible transformation of an entire family by this food first message and food is medicine message. And really all they did was change the food. They changed what they served breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Oh, that's incredible. I was very fortunate. I participated in one of these whole food immersions when they first started doing them. And I've seen the transformations and it was so inspiring. But then you wonder, they have to go back to their job at Whole Foods. And as wonderful of a store as it is, not everybody works in the produce department. There are people that work in the liquor department, in the bakery, and prepared foods. So how do they go and maintain their success when they go back into an environment that maybe isn't as supportive as they would like?
That is a great question. That's something that we talk about at every immersion, because people raise their hand and they say, I'm in the meat department or I'm in dairy and cheese. How do I actually go back and work in my department and not partake of those foods myself and then sell those foods? And so there's like a little bit of a cognitive dissonance now that they're facing. We always encourage that, your life is a journey and you're in transition. And so you've been blessed with a great job. And so you go back and you can work in that department and do your best, supplying something that people are desiring to eat. And in that process, you can start working towards, a job transition that may be something that more fits with your new values and vision for your life. And so not let that become a point of friction for them. We also encourage them to find a supportive community, kind of back where we started in the beginning. That socially supportive network is so important. And that through that, even if you're working in a difficult environment, to have social support at the store or via Facebook, groups, or at home, that socially supportive environment is absolutely critical to long-term success. And if that social support network is not there, it's very difficult to push back against the resistance to be successful. We try to create as much support around them as we can, but we also encourage them, find somebody at the store that's attended an immersion, find some people in your local area, on the internet or wherever, create a little dinner group, get together on a regular basis, encourage and support each other and love each other through the process. And then we also encourage them, environment is important. And I know that you've had some experts talk about this during your program. The environment around us really influences the decisions that we make. And that's that kind of architectural environmental change. And so instead of going back into a situation where you may have some challenges with unhealthy food surrounding you on a regular basis, to create opportunities for yourself to make better choices. And that's things like packing lunches. One of the simple things that I love to do to pack my lunch, as I pack my lunch when I'm cleaning up my dinner. So I have a little Tupperware, and I just simply take a handful of leftover salad, take a handful of cooked vegetables, whatever it was that night, and then a good scoop of whatever cooked veggie dish that we had, and I put it in there with a piece of fruit, and I put that in my bag right at night, and my lunch is done. So it's a very simple way for me to assure that I'm taking a healthy lunch. And in that lunch, if I'm going to need a snack, I'll throw in some veggies and hummus. I'll throw in, another piece of fruit. I'll throw something in, a potato or a sweet potato, but something additionally that I can have that, if I walk into the break room and there are unhealthy snacks, that I have something that I can go to and not feel tempted. And so creating healthier options at work around that food makes a big difference. If we go in, we encourage them, if you go into that environment and you're hungry, there's a much greater likelihood that you may make choices that you didn't bargain on when you got up in the morning. So it's important to take care of yourself and give yourself some protection so that you're not putting yourself in a compromised position to make those decisions. It's also, it's important to have the opportunity to phone a friend, to have somebody that you can call for 30 seconds or a minute and just say, hey, listen, I'm feeling tempted. There's a break room full of donuts and bagels. and I would really like to have one right now. What can you tell me? And that, just have a friend to be able to encourage you and put you back on track, just to grab that one moment, and that one, 1 minute phone call can really turn you around the rest of the day. And so those little things like that make a huge difference. And just setting those things in place gives you the opportunity to succeed in environments where you might have challenges otherwise. So we work with people to create some of those strategies before they leave. Who is it that you can call and have that understanding that it will be like a 30-second or a 1-minute phone call that they can find that assistance? How are you going to pack your lunch? What kind of snacks can you take? Are there ways that you can do other things at work if the break room's a temptation? Who's a support network? Just to work through those actually with pen and paper, so that you have structure around those decisions and you're not left guessing in those challenging moments when the food is calling out to you like sirens from the rocks.
I love your idea about phone a friend, and I work with people that actually have my personal cell phone number and they don't reach out, and they'll say, well, because then you were going to talk me off the ledge. It's like a part of them still wants to indulge in those hyper palatable foods.
That's how powerful those foods are, right? They will just draw us in, and they'll overcome our rationality and everything that we had promised ourselves we wouldn't. They sometimes will draw us into those same foods and cause us to make decisions that we wouldn't make otherwise. And so that's why I think it's so important to have that environment that allows you to be successful. It's the environment and it's community and friendship that really sustain you long term. And even in those situations, with phone a friend, it's important to have a friend that you can call afterwards and say, hey, listen, you know what? I just went into the break room and my favorite jelly-filled donut was there and I couldn't resist and I had two. And you're able to call your friend, and the friend says, hey, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. We're going to pick up, we're going to get started. What are you going to have for breakfast? And so to have that type of a friendship or that type of support makes all the difference in the world.
Right. I know that support is so important in community. What about people that don't have the support at home? Is there any advice you could give them? I have so many women in my program that want the clean environment, and they've asked their families to eat all the non-compliant food out of the house. And they just say things like, well, you should have more willpower. And if the person was an alcoholic, I don't think any family member, a loving family member, would drink alcohol in front of them, but yet they eat pizza in front of them and cookies, and it makes it so hard for the individual. How can we talk to family members about supporting their loved ones who struggle with having these foods in the house?
Right. So it's one of the challenges I think that all of us face, is working with people that go back into non-supportive environments where there's actually conflict around food in the home. We try to come alongside of people and encourage several things. Number one, we try to encourage them never to fight about food at home. We have found through the years, as I'm sure that you have, that when people begin to argue over food, it's really maybe the beginning of the end of a lifestyle change, because ultimately, again, it goes back to acceptance and trying to find peace. More than likely, the person that we're working with will begin eating unhealthy food again to find peace back in the home. And so we really encourage not fighting about food. If it's possible, one of the things that we recommend is to go back and not say too much, only give them a little bit. We always tell them, I'm not a big fan of salt, but just give them a little bit of salt to make them thirsty, but not to dump a lot of salt that it becomes so unpalatable. So just a little bit of salt. And also to lead with the idea that you're doing this not only for yourself, but you're doing it because you care about them. If it's a spouse or significant other, we will share with people, if they ask, well, why are you doing this? Why are you giving up these foods that we've enjoyed together? Why are you giving up the beer and pizza that we enjoyed on Friday night, or the nachos? You just simply say, one, I have to do it for myself. I realize that I am feeling so poorly, and if I don't make a change in my own life, my own quality of life is going to be compromised. And because I care about you so much, because I love you so much, I know that one of the most loving things that I can do for you is to take care of myself. Because I know that if I'm not healthy, it's going to directly impact the quality of your life. You're going to end up spending so much inordinate time and energy, and our money that we have worked for together is going to go into taking care of my poor health, that I don't want to see that. I have a greater vision for our future together. You know, we can do so much together. All of the dreams that we shared when we first got together, I want to do those with you. And why I'm making this change, because I believe in us. And so I really believe that, you know, speaking that way to someone makes a huge difference. And it takes it out of the realm of arguing about food. And again, it brings it back into that realm of learning to, you know, find that connection in love and letting love lead out into that relational change. And then as much as possible, you know, from that point, not even talking about the food, but just, you know, doing as much as you can to have a healthier options for yourself, and then allowing the others to make their choices as well. And, you know, even the plates of food we talk about are not that terribly different from somebody that might be eating healthy. You know, everybody should be eating some salad. They should have some kind of a steamed vegetable. And then the only difference is the cooked portion. And, you know, you might be eating, you know, a wonderful, you know, bean, lentil, either Thai, Mexican, you know, Spanish, Chinese version of food, and they may have a piece of meat, which can be easily cooked. Meat dishes are very easy. And so, you know, it's that one portion that's different. And so it doesn't even have to be that different in the household. But there again, you know, for the person that's trying to make that change in a conflicted household, leading with love, it's important to have social support networks outside of the home that can really come alongside and make a difference and provide the support that you may not be getting at home. And we have seen some amazing things happen over time, especially when people lead with love. We have seen households change in 6 months. Sometimes it takes a year. But as you have also seen, I know, Chef AJ, those households will change as they see, you know, the person they care about getting healthier, more vibrant, diseases and weight leaving their body. They become inspired. They start trying the food and say, hey, you know what, that actually is pretty good. I'll take a little bit of that too. And so there is a transformation that comes over time. And so the last encouragement we always give people is just hang in there and don't become disappointed or frustrated, because change does take a little bit of time. And even the people that you love may take 6 months or a year to change, but by your example, by preparing delicious, healthy food, they can change, and you can lead them into change. Just step by step, month by month, they can also walk into a healthier lifestyle.
Wow, that's terrific. It sounds like you would have been a great marriage family therapist if you weren't such a wonderful doctor. And it sounds like a great title for your next book is Lead with Love. Because
Lead with Love.
We've talked about a lot on this summit yet. Well, you have, I believe, 5 children, right? Is that correct? 5 children?
I have 5 at home, and I have 1 that's married, and I have a granddaughter.
Wow. So you have 6 kids, and
6 total.
That's amazing. So they eat a healthy diet. So many parents struggle because they didn't know this information when they were raising their kids. They gave them a lot of dairy, a lot of sugar, and they struggle with changing their diet. What hope can you give to parents? First of all, why to do it, and then how to do it?
Yeah, so for parents at any level, you know, first, if you have a young family or if you don't have a family, now is the best time to make a change. You know, if you've not had children yet and you're planning to have children, we know from the field of epigenetics that when you change your diet and your lifestyle, you're actually influencing not only your life and the offspring that you will have, but that next generation, so your grandchildren, by the food that you're eating now. So if you don't have children now, start eating healthy and know that it's a 2-generation effect that you're making by making better, healthier choices. We also know influences pregnancy in so many ways: healthier pregnancies, easier deliveries, healthier babies. So many reasons to start before you get pregnant. If you have a young family, this is also the perfect time to start, because you're fully in control of the food that you buy. When you go to the grocery store, even though they may throw a little bit of a fit, you're the one that pays the bill. You're the one that puts the food in the cart. So you have the perfect opportunity to change their taste buds and their taste preferences and create a lifetime of health by teaching them healthy habits. One of the things that we really believe is important for especially young children, because it's so easy to train them, but children of all ages, is to engage them in the entire food ecosystem at home. So that's, growing gardens together, it's going shopping together, it's doing recipes together, it's bringing the food home and putting it away together, it's cooking in the kitchen together, and you can do all kinds of things with age-appropriate tools in the kitchen to engage them. From scrubbing potatoes and sweet potatoes to using butter knives to cut, soft fruits, to tearing lettuce and making salads. You can engage your children in many ways to be a part of that food preparation process. And the research actually shows that when children make food and they're part of the food preparation process, they actually will eat foods that they would not have eaten had they been offered them at the table. So by preparing food, they're going to eat foods they wouldn't have eaten otherwise. And we know that taste buds change, in 2 weeks to 60 days. So even early on, you can begin introducing foods to your children. Their taste buds change relatively rapidly, and they develop taste preferences for those foods. I just saw a great little video on Facebook where a child was offered all kinds of candy bars, sugar, and sweets, and just kept pushing them away, and was finally offered a bowl of broccoli and dove in and ate every piece of broccoli. And it's such a great confirmation that children's taste buds can change and they can appreciate a variety of tastes. And it's also, that involvement in the whole food ecosystem is a great way to teach your children and educate them as you're in the kitchen, not only about the value of food, but things like caloric density, which I know Chef AJ, why we eat certain foods, what's in certain foods, how they help our bodies. We pull open the Google and we'll pull up heart disease and look at heart disease as we're talking about dark leafy greens. And so they develop this real mesh network of cognition around food that helps them to understand why they're making those choices. Not that just we're eating more greens, but this is why we're eating more greens. The challenging group are the teenagers, especially as they get a little bit older and they have cars and they have a little bit of money. And they start to feel a bit invincible and push back maybe against some of those things that mom and dad were teaching. That is certainly one of the more challenging groups. And again, this is a place where love enters in. We love our children into change. We can't force them into change. And so by loving them into change, things like having a really big fun movie night with popcorn and nutritional yeast and, making some really delicious smoothies. Maybe some avocado chocolate pudding and some special cookies, and having a great documentary night, watching a new documentary that educates them about the health of their bodies. I also find that with teenagers, it's really important to meet them where they are and to find out what's important to them. If they have acne, that's the time to talk about, how dairy and the hormone profile of dairy contributes to acne. If they're an athlete and they're looking to improve their performance, it's a great opportunity to pull in a movie like The Game Changers and talk about recovery and strength, and to show them athletes that are top level athletes in the world that are plant-based. Like so many children, they actually may be struggling with constipation or GI disorders. And so it's a great way to help them overcome that and teach them, well, it's the dairy and it's the processed food that you're eating that's contributing to this, and we need to get rid of that and you're going to feel better. So we meet them, I use this point delicately, but it's like at the pain point. What is the place of the pain in their life right now? And we meet them there and we educate them and show them that their lifestyle choices can take away that pain and actually bring pleasure. And in doing so, that's the place where we can begin to motivate them. And then it's also important to, again, create some socially structured networks around them that connect them to other people that are interested in health. And one of the long-term visions I have is trying to create networks around the country where people can find somebody that really has a like-minded view. And so we just work through that whole ladder of teaching, education, leading with love. And the last thing, and I know that you love this too, and you do such a great job of this, is just making food delicious. It has to be really, we can cook greens and the greens can be dry and yucky, or we can cook greens and we can make them pop and be absolutely delicious. So the onus is on us as parents to make food delicious and to find ways to make food delicious and to show them that healthy food can be a part of an enjoyable, abundant life, and they're not losing anything, but they're actually gaining something in their lives.
Well, I love the way that you've reframed this whole topic. Love your children into change and make healthy food. It's just, I do this and you've inspired me to do this, you know? So what would you say to someone, Dr. Stoll, who's given up hope that they could ever lose weight?
I would say to you first that there is hope. You know, we have worked with so many people, Chef AJ, myself, and all of the experts that you've heard from on this program. We've worked with people and we've spent time with people who were hopeless. And we have seen some of the most challenging cases where people transformed their lives and overcame even the most difficult circumstances to transform their lives. So nothing is impossible. And I would encourage you that when you find the person that will help support you and love you into change, absolutely nothing is impossible. But the first and most important step is to find that loving supporter of your life.
Great. So Dr. Stoll, what is the real truth about weight loss?
The real truth about weight loss is that weight loss is possible, and that when we do the right things, our body finds its own natural weight set point. And that eventually, weight loss becomes something that we don't ever have to think about again. We can actually lose the idea of weight loss because we find a natural set point and we begin living in abundance, begin living in freedom, we begin living in joy, and food becomes a natural enhancement to our lives and not something that is an entanglement or something that's slowing us down or hindering us or is a detriment. And food was designed to be that way. It's designed to bring, joy and abundance and delicious tastes and health and strength and vitality into our lives. And so, I encourage all of you that are watching this program that you're on an amazing journey and that you will succeed because you're with an amazing group of people and found an amazing AJ. And I recommend all of her resources to you. And I know that you will succeed on this weight loss journey, and eventually you will not have to think about weight loss or weight the rest of your lives. You can think about the joy of living from that day forward.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Stoll.
Thank you, Chef AJ. I've really appreciated this opportunity to be with you, as always. It's been a real pleasure. God bless.
Thank you. Lead with love.
Lead with love.